right, my Art 2 and Art 3 students, this is Miss M. I'm going to give you a little video direction here on creating a 2D version of your name with a 1-point perspective. So you are going to start by making a horizon line on your paper. And what I want you to do is try to divide your paper in half. So this paper that I am working with is 9 inches. So I'm going to go down 4.5 inches and I'm going to make a little mark here. And I'm going to move over to the other side 4.5 inches and make a mark. And then I'm going to connect the dots. So I'm going to draw heavy so that you can see my lines. But when you do this, you need to draw very lightly. And if I've said that once, I've said it a million times. When you are drawing something with the intention of erasing lines later, you've got to draw lightly so that you can erase those lines, or else you're going to see them in the final product. So very lightly draw your horizon line across the center of your paper. Again, I'm drawing mine dark so that you can see it, because in the video you won't be able to see it. My next step, I'm going to come down a quarter of an inch from the top. And I'm going to make a mark on either side and do the exact same thing that I just did. I'm creating a guideline. This guide is going to be the top of where my letters will go when I begin writing. And I'm going to do the same thing down here on the bottom. Now the last part in this step that we're going to do is we're going to create the box that our letters go within. I want the letters to be around 2 inches tall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler again and put it at this mark, not at the top of the page, but at the line that you just drew, and make a mark at 2 inches on either end and connect your dots. You're going to do the same thing on the bottom. So when you get finished with this, you should have 5 lines. You should have one that's up here that's 2 inches wide. And you should have one that's here that's 2 inches wide. This is your center horizon point. I want you to choose 1 point for your perspective. Now, your point can be in the dead center. If you want it to look like all of your letters are popping up from the center, then you would want to put it in the center. Or if you want them to look like they're coming from one side, you can offset it a little bit. The only thing I do not recommend is putting it way out here on the sides. This will be much more difficult for you in the end when you start drawing all your extra lines. I'm going to choose my center point just a tiny bit off center, and I'm going to make a little circle here that you can see. You can draw a circle, just don't make it as heavy as mine. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to roughly write your name in, your first name and your last name. Now, it is important that you use all capital letters and you try to space out your name as much as possible across this area. You want to get as close to the top and bottom as you can on the lines, because we will be filling these in and turning these letters into block letters when we're done. So after you have roughly written your name, these letters that you've got on here are going to be a guide on where to start with your block letters. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my ruler. I want your letters to touch the top and the bottom. So if you go around the outside of what you just drew and you make a line, that is going to be where your letters are going to be. If you have a letter in your name that is rounded or curved, so for example, on the R down here, when I get ready to do my R or my O, I'm going to make this outline out on the outside straight, but you obviously want to use the curve of your letter because that is going to be weird looking if you have a R that's just a block. So come in like this to make your curves, and then don't forget these little inner parts. Those are important. Those are going to deal with the shape of the letter. The same thing for the O. You want that. Okay, I'm back. I have all of my block letters drawn. I hope that you were able to get all of your letters done. The next thing I want to do is we're going to draw our lines that come into our 1 point perspective that we are looking at. So this is our 1 point that we are working with. We're going to start with the bottom row of our top name. And everywhere where there is a corner, you're going to make a line from that corner to your point. If you have a letter that has a rounded point, you just want to find the places where that rounded letter touches that line. So for example, on my O, I would have a line here and here. On my R, it would be right here. And on my P, it would be right here. You do not have to draw these circles on your paper. I am drawing them for your benefit so that you can tell what I'm doing. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you these two corners. So here's the bottom corner of each side of the T. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to start at that corner and I'm going to line that up with my perspective point. And I'm just going to draw a line out to that point. Now you are going to erase part of this. So again, you don't want to draw super heavy like I am. I'm only drawing heavy so that you can see what I'm doing. You will go back later and you will fix these lines and define them. But for right now, you need to draw them lightly. So I am at this next corner of my T. I'm going to go from here down. Then I'm going to do the A. So if you notice, my A actually has 4 points that touch the line. So all 4 points will have to have lines drawn down to that focal point. So I'm going to go through all of these letters and then I'm going to come back and we'll do the next step. Before you move on to the next step, I would like for you to go in and erase these lines that you drew across the top, the middle, and the bottom, and any points where they go in between your letters. So erase all of those. I've already done that, but you can pause the video and do that and then come back. The next thing that you're going to do is you have where the tops of these letters and the bottoms of these letters are coming into our 1 point. But now we want to show where the tops of these letters are also coming down and where the bottom of these letters are coming up. The way that you do that is naturally when you look at something and you look at a line, you know that the line is not going to go through, you're not going to see a line through the letter beside it. So that's something to think about. So on here, if you had this point, so you're going to work with points again. So this corner of the T, if you line that up with your 1 point perspective down here and the corner here, you would draw a line, but it would only go to there. You would stop right there at that T. Now, you're going to do the same thing across the rest of these. So for example, if I line this up here with that corner and that dot, I would come down, but I would stop at the A. It's not going to go through the A. It's going to stop right there. Same thing with this one. Okay, all these points that you have here, you're going to come along behind. You're still lining up with that center dot, but you're stopping at that letter, okay, because you're not going to see it go through your letter. When you come to the bottom, I'm going to come down here and show you from the bottom. So you want it to look like it's coming up to this point again. So you're going to start with your first corner here and line it up with that dot. It's going to come up to the side of the M. You're going to continue it here, okay? It's going to stop at that I. So all of this looks like it's coming from the M. The I has its own line. So you come up there. And you keep working your way through all of these corners until you get all the way across your name. So I'm going to stop the video and I will put it on time lapse for you so you can see the process. All right, on this next step, we're going to draw where our letters end. They don't go out into infinity, they have a stopping point. So you have to figure out how big do you want your letters to be, and to make them consistent, you will need to use a ruler. Just like we did here to make a straight line, we're going to have a straight line down here. And I'm going to have mine line up with where that center point was, because that's about how far out I want my letters to look like they're coming out into space. So the thing that you're going to do is you're going to look at these points. You're only working with these bottom points on the bottom of your name, the bottom lines. So I'm going to follow this line down to my ruler, and I'm going to just make a mark that goes across to where that next line is that touches the other side of that letter. And I'm going to do this all the way across for each one. So if you follow that next corner down, make a line. Right now we're only working with straight ones, and I will show you what to do with the curved ones in just a minute. I'm going to follow that down. This one. Alright, so there are all the bottoms of where my letters were up here. The next thing you want to do is you want to draw that next line. So for example, this A, this T is pretty straightforward. These are all straight lines coming up, but this line on the inside is a little bit angled. So I want to look at that angle. I'm going to see this is how much of it is angled, and I'm going to follow it down to this point. And I'm going to angle that line, the same line, so same way. So what I'm doing is I'm drawing the bottom shape of that. So on the inside here, this is straight, so this would be straight. So this is the bottom of the T, the bottom of the A here. Then I have this bottom of the A. So here's my angle. I'm going to slide it over to that line. Here's my M. And you're going to keep working your way across. If you have one that is curved, all you will do is follow the shape of the curve. So if it was an R, it would be rounded on this side. So anywhere where you have here that's straight, because these letters are straight, if it was a letter that was curved, you would follow the shape of the curve. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the rest of these across here and these across here, and I will put it on time lapse so that you can see that process. So what I want to show you, now that I've got all these ending points for my letters, and notice that the curve of the O is followed here with the shape, this curved shape, and this P starts straight here, but then it curves on the edge. And then to make it easier to see what you're doing, you can go ahead and you can erase these lines that you don't need anymore. So this will be where your letters end. So all of these lines you can erase up to where the ending of your letter is. And so to help you see those lines, you can go back and you can trace over them to make them a little darker, because at this point, these lines are not going to be erased. So these are where your letters end, and it makes it look like they're coming up off the page. And see how it makes it look like the letters coming this way? You can do that all the way across. Like I said, erase those other unnecessary lines, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Alright, so I have erased all of my unnecessary lines. I have finished off all my letters, their length of how far they come in and out. And at this point, this is up to you on how you finish this. So you could shade these areas that are coming out. So you could show that definition of the lines where the length of the letter is coming out there. If you wanted to use markers to color it, you could do that. But I want to, at this point, now that you have your 3D letters and your 1-point perspective where they all look like they're coming from the same point, I'm going to let you be creative and show me how you would finish this off. And when you are done with this assignment, you can take a picture of it and you can upload it to Canvas as a JPEG. You can attach it as a file. If you're using your phone, you can do it from your phone as a JPEG, but if you're using your computer, you will need to send it to your computer and save it and then upload it as a file. So I look forward to seeing your finished product.